Hello, hello. Testing one, two, three. Okay, so I am on sabbatical and I'm supposed to be resting, but I keep coming up against these thoughts that try to convince me not to rest. And these thoughts are actually like fears. So one of the fears, for example, says, if I rest, I'm going to get in trouble. For some reason, there's been this feeling following me while I've been resting and doing nothing. And it's a fear of getting in trouble, that somebody's going to find me resting and I'm going to get in trouble. And low key, it really feels like God is going to get me in trouble. Like I'm going to get in trouble with God. Like there's this phrase that we say, like, oh, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And usually we're talking about the body or joints or things like that. Like if we don't use a skill or a language or something we've acquired over time, then time will then take away our gift. That time away from whatever that thing is will destroy it. And so I'm thinking about what I'm taking a sabbatical from, even my creativity, right? Creativity for productivity's sake, I'm giving that up. I want to get more into creating just later on that, but like I want to create more just for fun. And I've been having this heavy anxiety that I've been dealing with that tells me that if I don't use my gift, if I don't sing, if I don't write, if I don't show up, then I'm going to lose my gift. That somehow I'm not honoring the gift that was given to me. And it's like this feeling of like this pressure. I feel a lot of pressure to stay in movement, which really means to be productive. And I'm trying to figure out where that fear came from. I'm pretty sure church, because even in that same way, there's this fear that I have of God that I'm unlearning and trying to like unravel from. That really stops me from living my life and being well in my body and in my mind and my soul. And I didn't realize how impactful and detrimental these beliefs were in my life. So the fear of being caught not working, right? Like there's this parable in the Bible, and it's like the parable of the talents. And the idea of this parable is that, a master, or basically somebody with money, entrusts three people with money, different values of money, different amounts. And so one person puts it in a bank. I don't know, I'm butchering. Either way, two people do something with the money. They put the money in something and they get some money back. The third person buries their gift in the ground, right? And the person comes back and says, "Oh, you lazy sluggard, blah blah blah. Like, why did you waste my money?" Essentially, like, why did you waste my gift? If you would have put it in the bank, it would have at least gotten some interest on it, right? And so we call this person a wicked servant. This person who was afraid, who did something out of fear as a wicked servant, and people would use that to talk about being busy and being productive and beneficial to your community and that kind of thing. And I think that they had good intentions, but I also think that it left a traumatizing mark on my life where I've been afraid that God is going to call me a wicked servant if I'm ever caught not working, if I'm ever caught not being productive or being helpful to the body of Christ, so to speak, but just to the world in general. And I've carried that within my creative practice, that if I'm not creating, if I'm not showing up, if I'm not offering something to people, if I'm not selling something, if I'm not being useful, if a lot of people don't like what I'm doing, like, then somehow God's going to catch me being, I don't know, unhurried and unbusy, and will call me a wicked servant. And I think that parable was about hell, I'm sure, like everything, a lot of things in the Bible. Hello, little animal. There's a little flying thing on my mic. I don't know if you can see them. Can you see them? I don't know if this camera is going to work like that. Either way. Hello. But yes, okay, flew away. But the whole idea is that you're wicked if you're not caught doing something, if you're not caught being busy. And I'm dealing with that fear right now. That I always feel like, even though I'm resting and I'm doing nothing, I'm afraid. There's a fear. There's a fear that's following me, right? Like, oh, you're going to lose your gift. Like somehow, because I rest, if I rest for a year, for example, I'm going to wake up not being able to sing, not being able to perform. And it's not because I'm going to be out of practice. It's going to be because God was so pissed at me that God took away my gift. You know? And even though in my mind, I know good and well, rest is so important to creativity. Shout out to Kim Jones, or Kim Williams, excuse me. My friend, she's a singer, and I interviewed her on an interview for Black Girl Creative, and I'll probably reshare that interview soon. But one thing that she said that has stuck with me for forever is that rest is foundational to creativity. That without rest, you have no creativity. And it's true, right? Like when you think about music, music is not just notes. It's not just beats and drums. It's not just noise. Like without rest, everything would be disordered chaos. It would be noise, you know? And I think that our life is like music, and that like we need rest. We need pause to make sense of everything. And so, yes, intellectually, I know that I need rest. I know that my gift is not going to go anywhere. Actually, resting your gift might make it stronger. You know, like I know this intellectually. However, in my spirit, there's a fear, this great fear that I'm going to wake up one day not being able to sing because I didn't use the gift right. And this kind of doctrine kind of funnels us straight into like hustle culture and grind culture and like all the things I'm trying to get unstuck from. You know, it's indoctrination. It's this belief that I am here only to be productive, only to be useful, only for people to approve of me. That too. Like I'm here only to be a workhorse. Zora Neale Hurston has a line in Their Eyes Were Watching God where she says like, the Negro woman, and I'm paraphrasing, the Negro woman is the mule of the world, right? And I think for a lot of Black women, the reason why we're praised, right? The reason why we're seen, the reason why we're celebrated is often because of the work that we do for other people. When people are in trouble or in peril, they come looking for us because we are helpful. And I think whether intentionally or unintentionally, a lot of women pass down that goal to other women, like our aunties, our mothers, our grandmothers. I don't think that they meant anything by it, but that was their existence, right? Like this is what gives me value and worth, so you should do the same thing. This is our lot in life, so you know you better get used to it, you know. And I love that I'm living in a time where people are pushing back on that and being like, because low key, I'm working on my boundaries. I'm working on my boundaries. And yes, my boundaries with other people, but also my boundaries with myself, right? Because I have an inner colonizer who wants to run me ragged, who wants to destroy me, who tells me things like, you know, again, if you're not being productive, if you're not being seen, if you're not being celebrated, then you don't matter. Like, and the only reason why you should be celebrated is because of your suffering or overcoming something or, you know, gaining something, whether that be money or a degree or whatever, right? We all have that inner colonizer in us because a lot of us have been colonized. We live in America or the West, right? Or the West has touched down where other people live. It's global. And so, I give myself grace with that. And I also have to be, that means that I have to be I have to pay so much attention to what I'm thinking, where it's coming from, and why. What I'm thinking, where it's coming from, and why. What I have learned is that all oppression is just projection, right? When someone tells you that you are not enough or whatever, like, and they're oppressing you, like, that is their projection of themselves, right? You have to make someone smaller to feel bigger. If someone really liked themselves, they wouldn't have to do that. They wouldn't have to make anybody feel small. So I have to keep reminding myself, Alicia, this is just messaging from the colonizer to make you feel small or not enough or inadequate because it is a projection of their own belief about themselves. Even though I know that intellectually, right? It's still hard being put into practice. So going back to boundaries, I'm trying to get better boundaries with other people. But like I said, most importantly, I'm trying to get better boundaries with myself. I'm realizing how often I push myself beyond my own boundaries. For example, if I am tired or my body will give me signals that I'm tired. One of those will be like my eyes will get hot, like my eyes will get tired. I'm sure you know what that feels like, but like your eyes get tired and hot and you just want to close them and go to sleep and take a nap, right? But a lot of us don't do that. A lot of us just keep going. We keep pushing through. We drink coffee or energy drinks. We stand up. We do jumping jacks, right? We try to, find some hack to get us back into productivity when your body is saying, I'm done. I'm tired. I have nothing else to give, right? I realize I push myself beyond my boundaries way more than I actually think. If I'm listening to my body signals, as in like my eyes are tired, my body is fatigued, my mouth is dry, these kinds of things, right? If I'm pushing beyond those boundaries, then I am oppressing myself. And I'm like, why am I doing that? Why am I pushing myself beyond? Like we've been taught, and that's why there's so much grace. We've been taught what our limits should be. Like no one asks us like, oh, what is your limit? Are you full? Or like, are you tired? No one asks us that. No one centers us in our own lives. We have to learn to do that. So like, as a child, you might say, oh, I'm tired, mommy. And mommy says, oh, well, that's too bad. We still got to do X, Y, and Z. Or, you've seen your aunties up all late at night. And because we're getting near Thanksgiving, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the anxiety I feel about Thanksgiving. I love spending time with my family. I love my aunties. I love my uncles. I love my cousins. All of them. right? And also, it is a stressful time. It is stressful because there is 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the kitchen cooking for the entire family. It's stressful. And even though I know, for example, my aunt is going to cook, I know she's going to be tired, right? But she's going to keep going. And so, and I honor her, right, for everything that she's done. I'm not criticizing her, critiquing her, but I'm seeing how all of us push ourselves beyond our boundaries. Okay? And so when you're raised seeing women who consistently push through beyond their limits, beyond their boundaries, right? You start to learn, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. You don't think anything's wrong with it because this is just the way of life, right? Like, this is just how we've always done things. This is just how we do things. And I feel so bad. I feel so bad for how I've treated myself, how my inner colonizer has treated myself and convinced myself, I have convinced myself, or the inner colonizer has convinced myself, right, that I am unworthy of celebration, that I should be shamed somehow if I don't cook Thanksgiving dinner. Like, Thanksgiving dinner even though I love it, right? I love it because food is culture. Food is history. Food tells a story. And when I eat the food of Thanksgiving, I think about my ancestors who have since passed on. You know, all of that is beautiful. But if we don't have the wherewithal, if we don't have the bandwidth, okay? If we don't have the margin to cook this dinner and do it with joy, why are we forcing ourselves to do something we don't do just because we've always done it that way? What's wrong with going to a restaurant one year for Thanksgiving? What's wrong with, and I get it. Like, my families are very traditional and they're like, that's not what we do. Like, you cook for your family. It's an act of love. And I think that's why my aunt does it, because she loves through cooking. But also, like, it's also okay to be like, I love y'all and y'all know that I love y'all. I've cooked for y'all for the past however many decades. I'm tired, But I also know that if my aunt does that, she would feel bad. She would feel bad. And I deal with that too. Even I do things that I know I don't want to do because I feel bad. I feel like I'm going to let the other person down. I feel like they're not going to know that I love you, the person. Like, we all have that fear. And I'm just realizing, like, how insidious it is, right? Because it's really sneaky. It's like, no, I'm cooking for you because I love you. And so we think that love is sacrifice and what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. Sometimes suffering. Or struggle, right? Or strain. Like, my mom struggled and strained for me. That's because she loves me. And so then we interpret love to mean, oh, I have to struggle and strain for people to show that I love them, right? And so it happens over time. It's not like this one event, right? It's multiple events. It's multiple messagings that say the same thing, that if you're not being productive, you're not being loving, you're not being a good Christian, you're not being a good daughter or a good auntie or a good matriarch or whatever it is, right? This guilt that we carry, this weight that we carry, and it's not our own. And so going back to creativity, I'm still creating because I'm a creative. It is what I do. I journal, I take pictures. I'm making a video right now. You feel me? Like, I like creating. I really enjoy it. But creating for approval and for money is something completely different. Or like doing something that I feel like has to be impactful for everybody else, right? I'm still unlearning. Shout out to Marissa Price, servitude, right? And cannot think of the word right now, but servitude, right? This idea that I have to be in service to other people, that I am here to be used as a tool consistently and constantly, and that is where I found my worth and my value. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm going to get in trouble. God's going to punish me. God's going to end my life early. God's going to take away my gifts. That if I'm not being of service and useful to other people, then I am doing something wrong. That's the fear and I live in every single day. So taking a break from my art for it being useful to other people feels like I'm doing something bad. It feels like I'm getting in trouble with God. It feels like God's going to take away my gift because I'm not using it in a way that the church or Christian culture or whomever, right? Like, no, whoever they told me, whoever told me that I'm going to get in trouble for not using my gift. I hope I'm making sense. I hope this makes sense. Anyway, but so on my walk, I'm just like, yo, like, listening to those fears, like, instead of like pushing them away and like, whatever, that's not true, ignore, no, interrogate those things. Like, where did this come from? This came from church. This came from the pulpit. This came from unintentionally my mom. This came from my dad. This came from their parents, right? Because that's how they survived. There was no time for resting. There was no time for not being useful. Like, right? Like all hands on deck. We need everybody a part of it. We're working towards a bigger cause, right? But at what cost? You know what I mean? Like at what cost? I love my family. I love them dearly, but I also know that they are victims of capitalism and they are exhausted and they are tired and they are weak in a lot of ways. And some of them are not well, right, in their bodies because they are in constant motion. But where is that rest that we were talking about earlier, like in between the notes of the music, right? Like the pause. When I listen to a great song, right? When I listen to a beautiful song, sometimes, hey, bird, sometimes I need silence to digest what I just listened to, right? After the song is done. Like, don't go to the next one. Don't rush to the next thing. Sometimes I need to sit and marinate in, like, what I just experienced, right? It's not just like, we are so, there's a lot of ways I want to go. So bear with me. But, in America, we're taught to be consumers, not appreciators. Like, we just consume things. We don't appreciate things. We don't appreciate the quality of things, how things are made. We don't linger. We don't savor our food. Like, you feel like we're taught to just be consumers as opposed to, like, have a full-blown experience of life. And I think with, especially like with social media, with the scroll, like the constant scrolling, you know, there's no end. It's like we're just like gluttonous, right? Because we're all hungry for something deeper, some connection. Like even social media has become just empty, like empty calories. Like it's something to do, but it's not really enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm there. And so yeah, like now, so I went over to this new app called Blue Sky, and I like it so far. So far, no drama, no mess, because it's an alternative to Twitter. And it's just peaceful there, and it feels like early Twitter again, that people are sharing their art, their thoughts. People are being kind, you know, and thoughtful, and I miss that. And I feel like a lot of the internet is missing that. And maybe it's only a matter of time before Blue Sky becomes Twitter. I don't know. But right now I'm enjoying the moment. Like it's just less noise and less clutter, less people trying to sell you stuff. You feel me? Like there's not a lot of ads there at this point. I don't know what the future holds, but either way, I'm enjoying it. And so I'm just missing those experiences, not the McDonald's. Like everything is McDonald's now. You feel me? Like everything's McDonald's because we're almost like we're at the end of capitalism. Like it's almost I keep talking about capitalism like a wet towel, and I really feel like we've wrung the towel dry. Like there's nothing left. And so everybody's selling all this empty stuff because we prioritize consumption and fast and easy and convenient and cheap above everything else. Like nothing is quality anymore. You know what I mean? Nothing is quality anymore. Even when you look on YouTube, like, and this is listen, there are artists out there that I love and respect and follow. They use a lot of edits and stuff like that. I'm probably not going to do that because I'm not that kind of person. That's not where I like to experiment and play creatively, right? But like a lot of people are just following formulas that they've seen before that works. And a lot of it is like really busy graphics. And it's just like, get your attention, next, right? Without really like allowing someone to sit in front of you and savor a meal. And this is also like not a dig at people who create, this is not a dig at people who create fast food. I don't know. That feels disrespectful. I don't mean it to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to say that like, there's a difference in the feeling of consuming something that somebody, or not even consuming, let me not even use that word, experiencing something that someone created where it feels like a full meal versus something that you can tell was just like filler content. It's like when people put out an album and like there are songs that move you, but you can tell that there were some songs on this album that were just like filler songs. Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't written with an intention. It's just like, oh, we need to make 12 songs to make this an LP or whatever. So what's 5 songs you got in the back? You feel me? Like I like shorter works that are juicier. You feel me? Like I like I like music that is an experience. That's a journey. And so I would rather have 3 really good songs and like 12 extra filler songs, to make 15, to make an album. Like, that's just me. But I also understand because it's almost like these platforms are also forcing us to make filler content, right? To appease an algorithm, to stay in the algorithm, to, catch the latest news, to like use the trends. And like these platforms are making us chase them. And because they're making us like, it's almost like they're putting, how can I say? They're putting like a carrot at the end of a stick and making us run around a track. never getting what we're really looking for, right? And so then that creates a society of consumers. It trains the consumer to consume you like you're a meal and not really experience you. And it trains us to prioritize the algorithm over true like connection and authentic creation. You know what I mean? And again, let me make it clear. There are people that I watch that talk about the trending topics, right? But they do it in a way that I enjoy. They do it in a way that, I don't know, just feels different, feels like a meal, as opposed to just like you can tell someone who's just doing something just to do it. And I've been that person. Let me also be clear. Like, I've been the person to only do something. Hi, how are you? Because it's like, oh, this is like the next thing to do, or I should do this, or somebody recommends that I do this. But it's not really like listening into me and like, what do I want to do? What do I want to say? What works best for me? Not an algorithm. Like, I don't want to live my life for an algorithm. And adding on to that, I don't want to live my life for an algorithm. It's almost like the algorithm is exactly like this pressure I feel. The algorithm is just like that pressure to constantly create, to constantly be in movement, to constantly do. You feel me? Like, it's all connected. It's just online. that fear of putting it down, of not posting anything, of not creating a song or not sharing anything, or like, am I losing my gift? Am I in trouble? Like, oh, am I losing followers? Am I losing opportunities for future collaborations with other people? Am I losing respect of others, of my peers? Like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, when you were, I don't know if I've been in a lot of houses like this where like you're tired, you want to sleep in, but you hear movement and then you feel anxiety because now you feel like you have to get up and move and like create. Like, that's what it feels like, that anxiety. Or like you're at home and then your parent comes home and like you're stressed out and anxious and you're like, oh, let me hurry up and like look busy so that they're not mad at me. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It feels like a constant fear of getting in trouble, even though I'm grown as I don't know what. I am grown and I still feel I feel responsible for what people think about me. I feel fear about losing what I love because I choose to take care of myself. Isn't that interesting? I fear getting in trouble for taking care of myself. Because low-key, it's not in my mind, I did get in trouble for that. I got in trouble for having boundaries. I got in trouble for saying no or for listening to my body, right? When it says enough, when it says I can't do anymore. Being pushed. I was constantly pushed. I was also an athlete, so like being pushed is like a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a way of life. You push through things you don't like. You push through injuries. You put like all the while like wearing your body down, wearing your mind down, making you hate a sport. I ended up hating playing basketball because I was being pushed to play it. Like, it took the joy out of it because I felt like I was then performing as opposed to just like having fun. So I didn't want to play anymore. So like, yeah. So anyway, like being pushed beyond your boundary is literally like the beginning of our life for a lot of us, right? Like if we're born vaginally, then like a lot of us were like being pushed, right? And then after that, because we live under capitalism, right? Like a lot of us were just like forced to be without our parents before we were ready. Our parents were pushed back into the workplace so that they couldn't be home with us to take care of us like they wanted to. Like we are primed and trained to remain as uncomfortable as possible for as long as possible and to celebrate it. Right? Somebody's coughing. I was like, is he okay? But yeah, like, and to celebrate it and be celebrated for it. That's how insidious it is. I was having this conversation about women in Christianity, and like everybody's like, why are women act like this? And I'm like, how do women not act like this? Okay, the women who have found the way to freedom, okay, they're helping us, because a lot of women, especially like women in the hello, how are you? A lot of women in the church, right? Like, and I'm only talking about the church because this is my context, are always taught to push beyond their boundaries and their limits. What are limits? What are boundaries in the church? Okay, what is that? A lot of people are staring at me right now. But hello, how are you? Okay. So yeah, so like, what are boundaries in the church, right? Like, there are none. Because you're a vessel to be used by God by any means necessary. Like, you're not your own. Your body's not your own. This is not your body. Your body was bought with a price, right? This is the messaging that like kind of, I guess, like primes us, but also keeps us in those places. Because not only are we fearing what community is going to say about us, we're also fearing an all-knowing, all-powerful, right, like God, who lives in my thoughts, and who is constantly harassing me. And obviously, like, this is not the truth, but like, this is the belief that is constantly harassing me and pushing me beyond my limits. And I should always look to carry my cross and bear the burden and suffer. And if I'm enjoying life too much, then I'm doing something wrong. Everybody should hate me. Everybody, like, this is messaging that I got as a kid. Like, if not enough people hate you, then you're not doing it right. And it's like, because the world is supposed to hate you. That's the whole point, right? If you're a Christian, the world is supposed to hate you. But I have thoughts about that. I have a lot of thoughts about that. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that. That at this point, I'm like, okay, this creates paranoia, right? But it also creates people who are, okay. I say perpetual victim. Let me be clear. I don't mean people who are victims. I mean like victimhood. Like it has certain people. We're here. Certain people chasing a narrative that they are always the victim, that they are being persecuted. And it's like, no, you're just a bad person, right? Like, so anyway, so it gives people an out to deal with their real problems. But yeah, like, I'm taught not to have boundaries. I'm taught to always look for the pain. I'm taught to always look for the cross to bear. And resting with that belief is really hard, because it's like you trying to go to sleep and the voice of God interrupts your thoughts and wakes you up like, oh no, there's stuff to do. The hours drawing, the hours getting short, and it's the end of the world. We have no time to rest and no time to do anything else. You got to save the world. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're taught. And so I'm just realizing these fears that I have are not, what is the word I'm looking for? You know how people say like they're an irrational fear? This fear is not irrational, because there are real consequences for Black women specifically who choose to rest and not do. It's not irrational. It's a real life fear. It's like a real lived fear. Like, a lot of us have lived through it. The disappointment when we say no, right? The forgetting you ever did anything for them before in life when you say no, or when you say no, thank you. The twisting of the arm, the guilt and the shame, right? Like, especially if you're a people pleaser. Oh my gosh, this kills you. Like, this feeling of like, oh God, I'm letting down someone else. It's all there. So I'm giving myself grace because I should give myself grace, because why not? Right? Like, why? What? Why am I even saying that? Why should I give myself grace? Because I can. But I'm going to give myself grace also because this messaging, at this point I'm 34, right? It's 34 years long. This messaging was built into the fabric of the person who carried me here, right? Like, my mother was probably born tired. Her mother was born tired, right? And being exhausted is just a way of life. I remember there was something that happened, and I was talking to somebody, and I said to them, like, I told them I didn't want to do something because I was tired or something like that. And this person said to me, well, we're all tired. That means we should all stop. If we're tired, that means we don't have, like, we're overspending, we're overreaching, we're overdoing. You know what I mean? And what would life look like if we actually honored our boundaries? If we actually, like, when our eyes got sleepy and we said, okay, that's enough reading for tonight. That's enough studying for today. When we started feeling that headache, or even before that headache even comes, oh, I need water. I need water right now. But you know what I'm saying? Like, because we're always taught to put everybody and everything else in front of us, because, like, that is our mission in life, and that is our one focus and goal. Like, that's the one thing we're here for, is to be of use to other people. It's in the doctrine, it's in indoctrination, right? Like, it's in everything. And, like, coming up against that, not only am I coming up against 34 years of my life, but also hundreds of years before that of the Black women I come from, right? And so even me setting boundaries is uncomfortable for them too, and dealing with that heavy feeling I feel, that guilt that I feel, and that shame, and reminding myself it's okay. They're upset for a moment. You're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. The world's not going to end. That's hard. That's really hard, like, and I'm just sharing this because I know, like, I talk about rest a lot. Other people talk about rest a lot. And, like, we're in this era of, like, yeah, we're what is it? Getting back our time. Time and energy that we put into society, right? Like, but I also want to offer that it might be hard, and that's normal, and that's okay, and that's something that I'm learning. It's normal. It's normal for this to be hard. It probably will be hard, because this goes against everything we're taught to do, everything we're celebrated for, right? Like, the silence of not being celebrated. Ooh, right? Like, the not being approved of because people won't approve of it. Like, dealing with that is really, really hard. And I just want to offer to you that, like, I'm in it with you, and we're going to get there. have grace with yourself. You're pushing against programming, indoctrination, and a system that works really, really well. Is really, really good at convincing us that we are unworthy, lowly, ugly beings. So you loving yourself, you setting boundaries is revolutionary. Yeah. So yeah. I think I will get back on my walk now. I think I said everything I wanted to say. Like even this, right? Like I'm thinking about this video. I'm like, oh, did I say too much? Did I misspeak too much? I'm human. I'm human. Like I don't want these algorithms or systems or programs or whatever to train me to be ashamed of being human. Yeah, let me get back on my walk. But yeah, I think I said everything. Resting sometimes is hard. And what else? Boundaries. We'll come back. I'll probably circle the drain around this whole conversation because this is just a realization wow, I fear resting because I fear God. I fear I'm going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to come in my room and tell me that I'm being lazy or tell me to get up because there's something to clean, right? And I'm going to get in trouble because God's going to find me not resting and I'm going to be without my gifts, for punishment. Y'all, it's deep. So as more thoughts come, I'll share, but let me get back on this walk. And I hope that you're having a lovely day. All right, bye.